Hey, nutraMetrix, I am back with another day of introducing you to one of our fantastic nutraMetrix health professionals. I have with me women's health nurse practitioner, Tina Rose. Hey, Tina, how are you?
Hey, Sarah. Good morning. Morning, everybody.
So Tina is from my backyard, just south of Boston, actually closer to Providence, Rhode Island. And Tina owns Just Us Health Center.
Just us women.
Just us women. Just I haven't had a cup of coffee yet. And I usually on a Friday will add a little bit of our nutraMetrix mocha tonics to it. So today we want to talk a little bit to Tina, just like we did to Dr. Deidre Mason, because we're excited about next Friday, a week from today. A lot of our nutraMetrix health providers are getting together on the computer over the World Wide Web and internet, right? For a really revolutionary way to learn about what Dr. Mason reminded us of the trend of precision nutrition. And I've been reading a lot of the studies that are saying things like people who understand their genetics are 2 times more likely to stick to a lifestyle program for their genetics rather than just a one-size-fits-all program. That was a study that was out of Stanford. And, so this is really important. And I said this to Dr. Mason yesterday, that my dad, he's a practitioner. And I think back, it was actually interesting. My dad, I was born the weekend before my dad's first medical exam when he went to Tufts Medical School. Walked into his first exam and wrote my name on the board. And so I like to say that I grew up in practice with my father. I was right there. I basically went to medical school, right?
Yes, you did.
So I was born in 85. So we graduated, in 89. When were those textbooks written? And now, fast forward 20, 25 years later, there's a lot more science that's out there. So Tina, right now, how would you find out about the latest science and technology if it wasn't for the summit?
Well, I'm in the same boat as your dad, Sarah, because I became a practitioner 30 years ago this year. 1988 is when I became a nurse practitioner. And I remember keeping all my textbooks with me from practice to practice. And one day I said, my gosh, I've been in practice 10 years. These are so outdated. But as your dad and every clinician out there, we have to maintain our continuing medical education credits, continuing education units, in order to maintain our licensure. So traditionally, we've gone to various conferences on topics that may or may not interest us, just to maintain our CEUs.
We could travel sometimes, right?
We travel, and when you're employed, I found it kind of nice because I would always go someplace nice, and it was paid for by my employer, and I had time off to go someplace nice. Now that I'm self-employed and own my practice, it's a lot of expense.
Yeah.
Not just to pay for the course to learn more, but also to stop seeing patients and not bring in an income in order to go to these conferences, which is very burdensome to clinicians in private practice. And we also have a lot of online modules, which still can be costly. One of the ways I keep up to date is with a forum. It's a website up to date, and all the literature is within 2 to 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Of publishing. And many clinicians use up to date quite a bit just to go online if there's something that comes into my office that I'm not quite familiar with treatment modalities. Problem with that, it is very medical based and not lifestyle. It's very much prescribe this, treat with this. And so it's the standard of care that's out there, but it's not necessarily my standard of care.
Okay. Yeah.
So I find these summits invaluable, and I've learned so much just through nutraMetrix training, which I have earned CEUs for also to maintain my license. But I can actually pick topics that are really interesting to me and that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. It doesn't offer any CEUs, but we do support and the nutraMetrix Educational Institute. So that's where you get your CMEs and CEUs.
Ah, that's right.
A lot of the same people just that do attend the trainings, and it is so great. And so, why would you say a summit like this, an online summit, and it is free, we have
one reason.
Yeah, that is one good reason.
Very good reason.
We do ask, if you have a little bit of a lighter day, schedule some patients around the summit. We understand it's from 10 to 3. We're going to give you the agenda. So there might be an agenda topic that's more relevant to you than others. But why has this been such a great format for you and your friends to learn?
For me as a business owner, it's been invaluable, just because, like you said, I can pick the topics that I want. I do get to rearrange my schedule a little bit. Yes, I'm seeing patients during the day, but sometimes I just have it in the background. And when I'm sitting writing my notes while the patient's in the exam room, I can be listening. And Dr. Mason has a way of just infusing your brain. So I just love hearing her. And I've heard her so many times that it really becomes second nature. And I pick the topics that I absolutely want to hear. Your dad being an OBGYN, and my specialty was OBGYN. Now I call it women's health. And to be able to hear some of those topics in practice was just phenomenal, to be able to incorporate, especially as I'm incorporating more functional medicine, more lifestyle medicine into my care of patients, in order to do it my way and not corporate America's way.
Right. Yeah, I know. You want to just tell everyone a little bit about your story and how you're different being an independent practitioner versus when you worked for someone else?
In Massachusetts, I'm a trendsetter. I was not the first, but I was up there, one of the first 5 nurse practitioners in the state to open their own practice. And for me, it was out of necessity. I had been in a private practice with the physician for 8 years. When he retired, he sold the practice to a hospital group, corporate hospital group. It was nonprofit. They brought me along, and I had a rotating door of physicians, 4 physicians in 12 years. And I built the practice, kept the practice going. Then they sold out to corporate America, a for-profit investment firm, took over, and I was a casualty of that takeover and lost my job. Mm-hmm. And the first thought I had was, who was going to take care of my patients? Because they were my patients. Mm-hmm. And so I decided I had to open my own practice. And 4 months to the day of being laid off, I saw my first patient in my practice. And I had a business partner at the time, another nurse practitioner. We opened together, and we had a vision of caring holistically for women. And I like to say I'm a woman's health provider, which means, and I tell people this all the time, last I checked, women had more than just reproductive parts. So I like to take care of the whole woman, from their brain to their stomachs to their skin, because they're all interrelated. And I think medicine sometimes gets too compartmentalized. So the cardiologist only wants to take care of the heart and doesn't care about the effects it's having on the brain. And the neurologist may only want to take care of the nerves and not understand the effects it may have on the hormonal system. So I like to integrate them all, and that's integrative medicine to me, is looking at the whole person and bringing in lifestyle. So my business partner ended up leaving the practice because income, depending on insurance companies, income was really tight. I was blessed that Dr. Celia DePelt, my physician collaborator, introduced me to nutraMetrix and an ancillary source of income, and TLS Select, which has now become the bread and butter of my practice. And so she has since left. I own the practice 100% myself now. And in the past year, thanks to TLS Select and nutraMetrix, I moved into a new suite. As you know, I just recently hired another nurse practitioner to help more with the GYN care, who's also very holistic and into education. And shout out to Chelsea if you're on. And I brought in a dietitian, a registered dietitian that I subcontract with. I hired a medical assistant, and we're just growing. 2018 is our year.
That's awesome. Okay. And it gives me chills just to think about the patients that are being helped. I've been a patient in a practice like yours, where I feel like we have the time and you're taking care of everything. And I've also been, recently I went to my eye doctor, and I didn't see the doctor. I saw one of his colleagues, and bizarrely enough and ironically enough, she never even made eye contact with me for the entire exam. She was on her computer and going back and forth, and it felt like I was just another little number in the system. And I have always valued the nutraMetrix providers that I've personally used. I do find, have an interest, because they do things like spend time with us, like you will next Friday on this summit, giving us information, learning about more information. staying up to date. And that's something that's really nice when you see, that sticker either on the website or on their door saying nutraMetrix Custom Health Solutions, knowing that they're part of this community. And we're excited to kind of peel back the curtain for our patients, in this forum to show you a little bit more about what our providers are like, what the services are like that nutraMetrix offers. And so tell me, what are you lecturing on next Friday? What are your topics?
My favorite topics of all. My first topic is basically how to incorporate a weight loss management system into your practice. Awesome. And for me, like I said, that's become the bread and butter of my practice. It's introduced so many new patients in the area to come to me, which now I can actually provide their GYN and their women's health care as well. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about TLS Select and how it's worked in my practice and how I've been able to incorporate it with the registered dietitian and medically supervised weight management, and how I've marketed it in the area as well.
That's phenomenal.
So that's one of my passions right now because it saved my practice.
Then you have a cool one about aging, right? Do you have an aging?
Well, and that's my other big forte. It's going to be on women's health and women's anti-aging, because I've borrowed a saying that says getting older is necessary, but aging is optional, and I've opted out.
Yeah, I love that.
So I am going to be talking about specifically for women and hormonal changes that occur as we get older, and which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did our hormones change so we aged, or did we age and therefore our hormones changed?
Yeah. Oh, exciting. Really exciting. These are so relevant, these topics today.
Very relevant.
A lot of time talking about that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think more and more clinicians are leaning towards, what can we offer that's different, to bring our patients. I think this corporatization of medicine has taken the care. So we no longer have health or care in our healthcare system.
Yeah.
So it's a way to kind of put it back in.
It's sick care. I mean, we're triaging at this point.
And it's not even care.
It's unfortunate.
It really is.
So tell me about the feedback that you've had. You've been a participant yourself, so either how this has impacted your practice, or I know that you've shared this in the past with colleagues who have been on. What do you think that the feedback has been, and how has this impacted them as a practitioner attending a summit like we're putting on next Friday?
There's just so much interest out there, especially amongst my nurse practitioner colleagues. I belong to Facebook groups with other nurse practitioners, and there's been a lot of interest. People, I posted the summit on there, and many people have reached out to me and said, how do I get on this? How I would love to listen in. Even if I'm seeing patients, I can get in for parts of it and listen to one topic and whatever interests us, because I do put the agenda and the topics out there, and people are just, particularly business owners, are extremely excited to learn more and being able to do it their way without taking time and expense to learn. But even people who are employed are grateful to have the opportunity to learn things that they want to learn, not necessarily what their employer is pushing them to learn. So I've had a lot of interest, and the health clinicians that I've partnered with are very excited because they all want to learn, and sometimes they just can't get away to some of our trainings. So, and they're spread out. So instead of waiting 4 to 5 months to when they can get to a training, they've got something, right there for them, and they're very excited about this. As am I.
nutraMetrix is doing a training right by you in Warwick, Rhode Island, March 9th, 10th, and 11th for practitioners, a product and implementation course.
And I will be there
for that one. And and if you're not local, that is an added expense. I mean, sometimes it is fun. You can, rub shoulders and get together and hobnob, with other practitioners. And we talk about how it's multidisciplinary, which is really different, because a lot of times as a women's health practitioner, you're just more tending towards just being with other women's health practitioners. But here you might sit next to a, on one side of you, a licensed, psychologist, and on the other side, a dermatologist, and really that helps your network. But even in the summit that we're doing next Friday, there will be a time for question and answers. And similar, it's going to be from different disciplines. So it will be really interesting to see how people will ask Tina a question who maybe aren't in the women's health field, or questions that will come in from practitioners from the women's health field, for other practitioners to be able to see, what are some relevant topics for your female patients, as opposed to your male patients, or your adults versus your kids.
And weight loss is across all ages and genders.
I was just reading an article about how really even in dentistry, they're detecting a lot of diseases, things that are, comorbidity factors that go right along with weight loss, obesity, right in the gums. And that absolutely, you notice you have bad breath or, something different with your mouth, you should immediately go to your dentist. And they might then send you right to an endocrinologist, cardiologist, women's health practitioner. And
interesting, my landlord is a very busy dentist and has lots of women that actually that work for him and that are all interested in my program. And we're actually talking to them about how to implement it into their practice, because he's very holistic and caring.
He's awesome.
Yes.
And January is a great time to talk about weight loss, right? We're already in January 12th today. So most people have already broken their New Year's resolutions, right? The gyms, don't worry about them. They are not busy anymore. January 12th. So you want to get started.
And that's the beauty of transition lifestyle system. It's a transition. So we'll just get people right back up on the wagon.
Yeah, it's great. And the lifestyle. So anything else you want to add? I just want to, someone had asked in the questions, they said, will the summit next week be a Facebook Live? The summit next week will not. It will be run through GoToWebinar. I will post registration information below. If you're not a current nutraMetrix health professional, you do have to have a license on file with us. So you'll just send that into nutraMetrix@nutrametrix.com. So I will get you all that information below. So you have that to be able to register for the summit. We're absolutely welcome practitioner guests as well who are not account holders. We can't keep this information a secret. It is just good. So anything else you want to add, Tina, before we say goodbye?
No, just encourage everybody to get on. It's going to be jam-packed with information. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope to see you next week.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time today. And thank you also for taking the time next week. We appreciate the passion that you bring to the division. So
it is an honor. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.